Hey guys, Kristen Leek here. Welcome to my channel where I talk about coding, design, and anything else you want to talk about. So today I have a good friend, special friend, Dylan here from Coding Tutorial 360. You need to check out his channel, and I'm so excited to have you here, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you. It's weird being on the receiving end. I'm usually interviewing people, so this is a treat. This is actually the first time I've probably collabed on another channel, to be honest.
Oh yeah? Well, great to have you.
Yeah. Yes, thanks.
So, tell me about how you got started. Like, a lot of people who watch my channel don't have a degree in computer science and want to learn how to code. So where did your interest begin?
I've really, probably about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years back, I just wanted to essentially make money. And I was looking at that time I was in school, I was looking at what degrees paid the most, kind of finish up my general ed, and it was like, okay, well, everything's going in a software or a technology route, and I decided on computer science. And that was kind of
how honest you are about it.
that's the truth. It just worked out that it ended up being something I liked. I didn't necessarily like the school aspect, which was why I dropped out. And then I continued my self-learning journey, if you will, from there.
That's so cool. So where did you start? Like, what tutorials did you start working on first?
Well, in college, I started working with Java and Python and Scala and probably 1 or 2 others. And I hated it. I actually absolutely hated every language I touched in college. And I had kind of a plan. I didn't just drop out and say, okay, I'm gonna just drop out and figure it out. I had a plan, and it was like, okay, if I get a job that pays this amount in the field, I'm going to drop out, and I'll figure out if I come back, and I'm going to work myself into a full stack position. And so that was about 2 years ago. So the plan was get an internship, and that was when I got kind of introduced to web development and started to really like it, even though I didn't do too much. And then I started freelancing, and then finally I got the job. But for me, it was the way that kind of the channel started was I just wanted to get better as a developer because I knew people were better than me. And like, there's always going to be someone better than you.
Yeah.
But they were so much better that it was like, all right, well, if I can't even compete. And I just kind of started doing tutorials on like Codecademy. And I was just like, I need to think more like a programmer. Like, forget trying to jump into the field. Until I can think like a developer, I can never be a developer. And that was kind of how the channel started.
How did you get the internship? So did you, like, how much code did you know before you got the internship?
I had completed several coding classes and a lot of all the calculus courses, all that sort of stuff. I was about a junior, so I had several coding classes.
So you had a foundation. You had a good foundation.
Yeah. Now, it was a web development company, mainly in the more web design section. But at that point, it was like a 4-person company. And
wow.
And so they basically just needed an intern for the summer. And what was crazy was I was applying to all of these internships through LinkedIn, through Craigslist. And I saw that Craigslist had a resume section. And I didn't know that was the thing. And I put my resume. I put my resume up there, said something like computer science student, looking for internship or part-time job, freelance job, and I had the resume up there as a JPEG, and I got like 5 or 6 calls within the next week from it, which was many more responses than I was getting. And one of them was this internship that was 2 hours away, and the guy called me and he said, hey, can you come in tomorrow at 6 a.m.? I said, yeah, sure, why not? You know.
Wow. So
I got up at 3:30 and I drove down there, and he ended up hiring me, and he told me, he's like, look, you're actually much less qualified than the guy who's supposed to come in at 10. But I called him and I said, hey, can you be here at 6? And he said, no, I need my sleep. I can come in later. And so that's kind of how I got in over the guy. And that guy had he already had graduated, and he had a little bit more experience. So it was, on paper, he was a much better candidate than I was.
So big question, did you have to continue to come in at 6?
Yes.
The test.
I did. It eventually moved to like 7 or 7:30, but I was there about 3 months, and then they hired me to freelance through them. and it was a long 3 months.
I can imagine. Dang.
But I was happy to have it though, because it was the first relevant experience I ever got on my resume, and that was about 2 years ago, and that was around the same time. I think a month before that started, I started my channel and I started uploading.
Okay, cool. And I noticed you post a lot of like walkthroughs, like of tutorials, and you do a lot with FreeCodeCamp. Is that your preferred tutorial of choice?
Well, yeah, what happened was I started going through all of Codecademy, and I was like, I'm actually running out of things to do, because it wasn't as if my content was super original, because that was never the case. It was, hey, I'm going to work through this, and then I'm work through it a second time and post it. And I was inspired a little bit by, and the idea was to make a video portfolio, and I was inspired a bit by Engineered Truth, who's been a friend of mine for like 20 plus years.
He's awesome. I love his channel.
Yeah, and so he'd be coming over to the apartment every couple of weeks, and I just remember it was like, I'm making X amount of dollars in YouTube. I'm making X amount of dollars. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start a channel, and I was like, I'll kill two birds with one stone. I'll maybe it'll be some sort of portfolio, and then maybe I'll make some money. But
I love how you mentioned the video portfolio, because I just did a video like trying to push people to start sharing their journey on YouTube, and a lot of people are so nervous to show their newbiness, you know? So I think that's so cool that you just went ahead and did it.
yeah, it was, and it's uncomfortable sometimes. You go back and you see where you were, and you're like, damn, man, that guy is strong.
I feel yeah.
But I mean, that's part of putting yourself out there. And so when I was in this process of trying to just become a better developer, and I was like doing the Ruby courses and the PHP, the Python, I didn't even really know what path to go down. I just wanted to get better. And eventually I was running out of content, and I jumped over to FreeCodeCamp. And I remember when I jumped in around the time they had about like 30,000 subscribers, and I was just like, this thing's going to be huge. It is such a step up from Codecademy, in my opinion, in various directions. And I just was sticking with it. I was like, all right, this is my goal. And this will sound crazy, but it never even occurred to me to build a web development project until I came to FreeCodeCamp and started. I was like, oh, why don't I have anything actually built in this other than algorithms? So.
And what's your favorite thing about FreeCodeCamp? Like, why do you prefer that over others?
Well, for me, it was I kind of fell in love with web development, and that's what it focuses on. And it was really the first place where I got challenged outside of college in terms of software. And so you had the algorithms, you had the projects, and it was when I built my first project, which was the Open Weather project, which you're basically getting the weather from your geolocation and displaying it. And
like the API.
Yeah, it was with the Open Weather API.
Cool.
That was, to me, there's something so cool about like, oh shit, I built this and it's there, it's done. And that was kind of when I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this site and go through it. And there's a lot of reasons why I like it, but that was kind of the projects were what kind of got me excited about it.
That's so cool. Okay, yeah, and your channel covers a lot of that. So are your tutorials like walkthroughs after you already did it?
Yeah, so a lot of people, it's so funny because sometimes people, one of the common comments is I'll solve an algorithm and it'll be like 3 to 5 minute video. Most of it, me going over it, because once you solve something, it's easy. You already have it. I could just copy and paste it over if I wanted. But it's all about context. And it's like, okay, well, maybe this video is 5 minutes, but it actually took me 5 hours at that time to solve it. And it's kind of unique in talking about the algorithm specifically, because the last 2 weeks I've been on a site called Code Fights, which I'm doing content for, and I'm eventually going to put it out. But it's all algorithm based, and so I see similar algorithms, and it took me to do the basic, intermediate, and advanced probably like a solid 4 months of just hacking away at them in the projects.
Is that every single day?
Oh yeah, every day. Working at these things, and but now I solve the same amount of algorithms in probably about 2 weeks that I solved in the 4 months. And so they're harder. So it's nice to kind of look back and see the progression of oneself, and because it's documented in video, it's not all in your head. So you can.
And I like going more into tutorials that you've done. I first started watching your April Learns to Code.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly did not know what to expect of that series.
Neither did I, so don't sweat it.
I really like how it turned out. How did that happen? Did you just decide that you were going to teach her? Or did she come to you and say, hey, I want to learn how to code. Will you do these tutorials with me?
It's a combination of a few things. It was, I accepted a role for a full stack role in Florida, my first one, and that was about 8 months ago.
Congrats.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that. So even now, I'm like, yes, finally. Right?
That's so cool.
And so she came down and without a job, and she got a job, and she struggled, and then she quit it, and then she's been struggling for 3-4 months to get another one. And it's between her and she has a degree in English, which isn't a technical skill, but she sees like recruiters calling me and making, I get the job offers that I would be getting are much higher. And that was kind of what lit her to continue to code. I said, okay, if you're really going to continue, if you want to learn to code, what you have to do is you have to code daily. And to keep you accountable, we'll do 100 days of code. And we made it to 30 days, and then I pooped out, and we're going to continue on.
Oh, so it's your fault. It's not her fault.
No, oh, yeah. The 100 days completely ended because I was just getting overwhelmed by it. It was taken away from a lot of things, and so we're going to continue after we move. We'll probably do a week at a time.
Gotcha.
Get her time to catch up as well. So she felt that, because I was running out of things to talk about. Like, I want her to study on her own, so I'm not holding the hand too much. Because you really for a lot of this stuff have to struggle through it, and you have to put those you have to just accept the frustration of being a developer when you're starting. And if someone's kind of say no, go left when you're going right, you have to realize why you went right. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. And so we're getting to the point then where at these 30 days, it was really it was starting. I could tell some of it was starting to click, and she had got enough out of the 30 days, and I was just tired of it. So we're going to continue on in a little bit.
Yeah, it's so interesting, like thinking back to learning in the beginning where you get really frustrated and you fight through it and you keep doing the tutorials even though you have no idea what you're learning, and then all of a sudden you work on a project and just clicks. It's like, whoa, how did I even figure it out? Because I had that problem with I was doing Ruby on Rails, and for some reason I could not understand the models concept. And then it just clicked.
Well, it's kind of one of the reasons why the sort of the video courses and video tutorials are so popular and growing, and they do so well on Udemy. Is that I do believe that in coding there's kind of a roadblocks that you hit that are impassable on your own at times, or someone can explain to you a concept in 5 minutes or 30 seconds sometimes that you may have spent 24 hours trying to research, but you didn't know the right questions to ask. And in my case, that happened to me when I was working at this software company and doing like technical documentation. I had spent all of that Open Weather API project. I had spent Friday, Saturday, Sunday, probably about 30 hours in total trying to fully understand APIs and what they do, how they work. And I didn't understand the concept. I didn't understand what I was looking for or what I was trying to find. And I didn't even know that it was kind of an I couldn't get it. And so I asked my coworker, who's a software developer, and in about 60 seconds he explained it. And because I'd struggled all those hours, I knew it. And that was that very next day I finished the project that I was doing because now I understood the concept. So the video tutorial, sometimes you just have to have someone who's already figured it out to tell you, look, this is what this does and this is why it does it. And it can go a long way than you staring at a couple blogs trying to understand just this sort of different language almost.
It really is. And it takes a while to get the terminology down to where you can just Google it or go in the Stack Overflow. So how has it been like working, like when you first started your job? Have you had any trouble like with the projects and had to reach out to one of your coworkers? Like
Yeah,
what's
I
that
work.
like?
It was when I first started. It was a bit intimidating because I was moving across country, and it was like, "Hey, can you accept this offer?" And I was like, "Yes, this is way
Wow,
more than I
across the
make."
country. Where are you from?
Yes, Los Angeles. So I'm
Okay.
in Florida. So literally as far as you pretty much can get.
Yay.
And it was 2 weeks later, I was going to be in Florida, 2.5 weeks. And I drove across country. It took about 3 days, but I didn't have any time to. I didn't have any time to study, and it was an Angular JS role and it's front end role that's gonna. So it's for a full stack role, but they're gonna kind of mend me into full stack. And so I was like, okay, Angular JS. I'd only built one thing ever in Angular JS, and it was my website. And I was like, okay, I'm not an Angular JS expert, but I will be. So I showed up. I was very nervous, and I kind of fumbled, I would say, the first 2 or 3 weeks. But I did start studying, and it only took my boss one comment to really kick me into gear. And he told me as I was leaving on Friday, he'd say, "Hey, make sure you study this week." And after that, he's never said it again. Because to me, that's like all you need to be like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you're not at where you need to be. Get your shit together, or you're gonna actually get your shit out of here." And so,
Yeah.
but for the most part, it's been a smooth ride. And I after the first month or so, and I think there's some leeway when they're trying to train junior developers into more of a senior role down the road. So they kind of expect that that's really the point of senior developers, is to help the junior developers mature and expand their knowledge.
What is your goal like for your career? Is it building a business around this or is it continue?
I would like to one day be able just to work on my own projects. I have a couple ideas. I'm building a coding site that's just essentially a monthly video tutorial site, similar to codecourse.com or something like that,
Oh,
where I'll be doing project-based tutorials. All the algorithms I'm doing, I'll be releasing on my channel, but also be going into more details, sort of drawing them out on the site. Just general things like that. But at the end of the day, that's not necessarily my end goal. I would like to start. I have a couple business ideas. One is one idea I plan on starting in about 3 or 4 months is kind of a loot crate, but for coders, of which you get like a T-shirt, maybe a cheat sheet, some stickers, and then you get one to two.
I'm not familiar.
Are you not familiar with Loot Crate?
Loot crate?
Yeah, Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box that they originally started with like gaming or geek gear, and so every month they would have a theme. Let's say it was Marvel, for instance,
Okay.
and you may get it's like $15-20 a box. Now they've gotten so big that they have 5 or 6 different boxes.
Oh, kind of like a Birchbox.
Something like that, where every month they send you a box and it has a T-shirt, it has like maybe a pop vinyl in it, it has maybe a mug, something of that nature.
Okay.
So one idea that I've been kind of putting on the back burner, and I started recently developing the logos for, and I plan on launching, is, and through the power of YouTube, hopefully market it, is a box that follows the same concept, where every month if you subscribe and it's $15-20 a box, whatever it is, and you get a shirt that a programming shirt, you'll get maybe a pin, a sticker, a cheat sheet, and then you'll get 1 to 2 courses as well every month. So like if it's Angular 2 box, you'll get some Angular 2 related merch and then 2 courses for it as well.
Ah, that's so cool.
So that's one thing that I've been playing with. But I have a couple of ideas that my goal is by the end of 2017 to launch one of these, and hopefully it's profitable. I don't lose all my money. So but that would be my end goal. One other thing that I'd be interested in is maybe 4 or 5 years down the road is potentially being like a tech evangelist. I kind of like the hackathons. I like maybe marketing the material and kind of showcasing technologies and being introduced to technologies as well. So that would be one thing I'd be interested in. But besides that, I don't really think too far ahead in the future.
Yeah, it's hard too, because I feel like the more and more I do, the more ideas that come to me. And sometimes you have to pivot, or sometimes an idea leads you to a better idea.
Oh yeah, and you never know what's going to happen. maybe for some odd reason your YouTube channel goes from X amount of subs where you're making a couple $100s a month where to it's for some reason fivefolds because some random video goes viral and now you're making a six-figure income. It's kind of crazy. So that could throw off your whole plan. Like if I don't make anywhere near, I make about 10% of what my salary is on average from YouTube. If my YouTube channel did tenfold the amount of money, I would probably do YouTube full time and just go from there and be able to develop my side projects based off the YouTube money.
Definitely. Yeah, I would like to do YouTube more full-time related. I got into YouTube just wanting to post a video about coding boot camp. And I didn't even look at the video for maybe 3 or 4 months. And then I saw it had thousands of views and hundreds of comments. And I was like, holy crap.
That's how I discovered your channel, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing some research. At work, I got on, sometimes I'll watch videos about topics I'm going to talk about. And people ask about boot camps all the time. And I wanted to see people who have positive experiences and negative experiences. And it was all very interesting, and I ended up subscribing to your channel through that, through that exact video. I don't know if you've done multiple talks about it, but it was a video definitely talking about coding boot camp.
Awesome. Yeah, I started to talk about boot camps for a solid 2 or 3 months, and I got to the point I was like, okay, I have to talk about something else because it's been over a year, so I've definitely grown a lot since then.
Yeah, I have a very positive take on boot camps. And it was very interesting to hear people who have had negative experiences in the past. One guy stands out in particular, but it was something where I remember some of the things almost comical. It was like I didn't realize my life was going to be me sitting at a computer coding every day. I was like, shit, man. Well, I don't know if we can put that one on the boot camp. Like,
yeah, I actually had a classmate who. She made it to the last week, but she said, oh my gosh, I can't do this full time. I need a job that lets me go outside or something. And I said, okay, well, it's a good way to see what, you really want in the end.
That to me is one of the things where people jump straight into a boot camp because they hear that, oh, it's a good option if you want to get a skill and there's good pay and it's easier to get a job without ever actually diving into it and saying, if you would have just studied for like 3 to 6 months beforehand, as I recommend everybody should, because you'll get the most out of the boot camp that way. If you can't study for 3 months beforehand, a couple hours a day, whatever you can allot, you'll know if it's for you or not. You're just like, look, man, this shit is boring, or I don't like it, I don't get it. So the people who I kind of discouraged from going into boot camps are people who do it spontaneously and without any prep, as well as people who are just doing it for a job and don't necessarily enjoy it. Because I think it is one of those things where you'll see a lot of, and that's where like a lot of good senior developers who get burnt out, they'll go and they'll do like project management all of a sudden, or architecture, something a little less, still technical, but a little less code oriented, where maybe they go into UX UI, or they're the Scrum Master or something like that, which is another great way that you can get into an emerging field without having to be, necessarily stuck at a desk all day. You can kind of be more of a people person in the process.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the negative reviews are from people who expect to magically get a job. Like, right when you finish, and it's like, no, job hunting is just as difficult for any industry. You have to work on it. They're not going to give you a job at the end.
Yeah, and that was another thing I found kind of interesting is the guy was complaining about filling out 50 applications and not getting a job. I probably filled out close to 500 applications before I got the role that I wanted, and I had a couple interviews. I would say out of 500, I probably had 7 interviews that I actually took. And so, but I was filling out apps left to right, and this individual didn't want to leave his county. And I was just like, look, man.
Yeah.
It's hard. But if you're in that mindset that you're just going to pay $10,000 or whatever you paid, and in 3 months you're going to graduate and there's a job, now that could be the case, but if you're in that mindset, chances are you're one of the worst developers graduating from the boot camp to begin with, and the ones that do get hired right out of the gate are usually the better ones. The top 10%. That doesn't mean you can't get a job immediately after, but it does mean that you have to work for it. The act of getting a job is completely separate from the act of being a developer, and you have to kind of realize that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and have you found that, like, studying and building a portfolio versus, like, sitting in an interview is completely different?
Yeah, it's which is why I'm studying algorithms instead of building shit, to be honest. I tell everybody that 1 year at their job, they should reevaluate what their market worth is and see what sort of raises you get. Because we live in or work in one of the industries where you can leave in 1 year, you could easily be worth $10,000 or $20,000 more than what you're getting paid. And your employer, depending on the company, may not give you that $10,000 to $20,000 raise. And the way that you get jobs a lot of times are technical interviews. It's just solving algorithms. So like, okay, you have a little bit of experience. Can you solve these 3 algorithms in 90 minutes or whatever it is? And so that, for me, my 1 year is in about 5 months. I'm just starting now. I want to prepare myself because I want to make sure I make as much money as possible working with the technologies I want to work with. But the portfolios, I think, are really what you go from having absolutely no experience to, okay, let's see what you can do to consider to hire you as a junior developer. So I think having a strong portfolio is one of the best things you can do. It's one of the reasons I got hired was my channel, actually. They looked at my portfolio pages, but the reason I got hired is they watched some of my algorithm and my project videos, and they're like, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about, and they hired me.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
They didn't even call my references, and I was like, cool, whatever. I'll take it.
Seriously. I haven't announced this on my channel yet. I will this week, but I was applying to jobs like the last 2-3 months, and I just landed one as a UI UX designer. Nice. And one of the things I noticed is that people love my portfolio, but like in one of my interviews, I had someone ask me to walk them through my user flow and to walk them through like my sketches and wireframes. And I was like, holy crap, I've never had to verbally explain. So that caught me off guard, and now it's something I recommend to people, like be able to use technical terms when talking about your work.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up user flow and wireframes, because some people don't even know those things exist that are trying to get roles, and it's one of the things that can kind of slip through the cracks. But it's one of the things I suggest to people trying to get a role is do the full. Imagine that this is a full project. Even if you have one portfolio item, if it's one good portfolio item, it can blow them out of the water. Do the unit test for it. Do the end-to-end testing. Do the UI UX with the wireframes and the user flow charts. You it will instantly set you apart from the other competition in that aspect. Because most people, they just build it and they forget it. If you kind of have the one big project where it's all encompassing, it could go a long way for you.
Yeah, and knowing why you do things a certain way too.
Yeah, it's always the why questions are what they're going to ask you. They're not going to say, okay, that looks great, but why'd you do it this way and not this way?
Mm-hmm. So for you, did you have a lot of whiteboard test interviews? What was yours like, or take home?
So the job I ended up getting was relatively easy. I had 2 phone calls and a couple of emails, and that was it. And they just needed somebody in, and they liked me a lot. And they were like, okay, this guy's clearly motivated. And that's one of the things, especially when if you're a junior dev, is they want good communication, and they want somebody who is motivated and passionate about software.
And proof of the motivation. Like
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and even though I'm not very active on GitHub, if I have a channel where I'm uploading videos on a daily basis, that will showcase. If I had both, that'd be even better. But a lot of times, recruiters will show people your GitHubs. All right, how often is he uploading? How often is she uploading? And if it looks like you're coding once a month or once every 2 weeks, they're going to be like, I'm a little worried about this guy. Like, he doesn't seem like he's actually going home and studying every day and trying to get better. Mm-hmm. But I had several different interviews along the process. Most were of the algorithm type technical interviews. The hardest one I ever had was for a company in Nevada, which was, I really was interested in working for them, and I was in the middle of it before I accepted this offer. And it was for a little bit less money, but I got equity in the company if I went with them. And they were already an established company that had about $20 million in venture funding.
Nice.
And so I was like, okay. And, they're working with large companies. They were essentially an analytics company for social media. And so I was like, oh, that sounds like something I would actually want to work in, being, passionate about YouTube. They had a 3-tiered project/algorithm process where I was in the first tier. I was going through. They gave you 4 or 5 languages that you weren't even going to be working in, and they were all sort of a little bit old, and you had to basically solve 2 different algorithms in a different language from the list. And it was languages I had never worked with, like Go and Rust, and I think it was C#.
Isn't Go fairly new?
Yeah, and maybe it was Haskell. I don't know, but all these languages I never touched. Only one on there I knew was Python. So the first one was easy. I was like, hell yeah. And then I did both of them in Python, and the recruiter sent me back, and that was when she was a little upset I didn't read the instructions clear enough that I could only use one language per algorithm. But that was eventually I got the offer. I was like, look, I'm not going to take a gamble here. I'm going to take the sure thing that pays better, and maybe the equity will be worth something down the road, but I want the experience, and they gave me exactly what I asked for. So how could I say no, sort of thing.
Oh yeah. And Florida's nice.
Yeah. I'm loving it. It's like no income tax is great. And people are all about the LA weather. But the traffic, and it's just hot and dry. That's LA for you. It's hot and dry and lots of traffic. It's not the greatest.
You'll definitely have a very humid summer.
Yeah.
I used to live in San Jose. I went there for grad school. And I love the lack of humidity.
That's in Texas, right?
California.
California? See, I don't know. I think of San Antonio. I'm so bad with geography. What do I know? So they don't pay me to be a geologist or geographyist, whatever a geography does. Make maps.
I don't even know what the study is called. Geology? I don't know. But yeah, San Jose is like 30 minutes south of San Francisco.
Okay.
If the traffic's really good, I think. But yeah, that was kind of how I got my start, actually. I studied journalism and mass communication, and because it's in Silicon Valley, they incorporated coding. I had to do some video editing. We created an app and everything, and so I left there with that knowledge, and then I ended up using it eventually. So it's pretty cool seeing that turnaround for me.
I wonder if there's some sort of correlation with journalism and coding, because that was one thing I was passionate about in high school. Is I did a lot of journalism. My father is a writer as his craft, I guess, and I even worked at a data center doing tech blogs for a while, and so I kind of got a little bit of HTML, CSS, and WordPress, all that sort of stuff. So I'd be interested to know if there's a correlation between journalists and people going into web development, because there's very few ways to actually get exposed to that environment, but I think journalism might be one of them.
That's actually funny you say that, because I just interviewed the author of Hacking with Swift, Paul Hudson, and he started out fully in computer science, had a degree in it and everything, and was building apps, and then he switched to technical writing. And now he's written all these books, like PHP, iOS books, and everything. So you're definitely onto something.
Yeah, technical writing is another interesting thing. It was something that I partaked in a little bit, and I found it to be incredibly boring, I guess would be the nice way of putting it. But everybody's different, and that's what's so great about sort of technology. It's not just hey, you just are a developer, although that's what I feel like that's almost like the glory. That's the glamorous developer life, if you will.
Yeah,
and a lot of people.
No one wants to be a web designer anymore. They want to be a developer.
There's so many different things, but I feel like people who are getting introduced to the world, that's all they see are the developers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Cool. Let me take a peek at my notes. I jotted down a few things just in case.
Yep.
Oh, we covered everything. Cool. While we start wrapping things up, like, do you have any tips for anyone? Like, any advice for any code newbies?
I would say if you're just starting out, there's definitely something that may try and gather your thoughts and put them out there to help other people. I think there is a benefit to that. And that was something, even by me doing the tutorial, sometimes I did them poorly. It was, you'll learn a lot about yourself. And I think there's something to be said about marketing and social media and having sort of that core project that markets you as a developer that will make you stand out. And the hardest part will be for you to get your foot in the door. And to do that, you have to be unique. You have to have good communication skills. You have to have kind of go the whole 9 yards. So if there's one thing I could say other than code every day is start a project that makes you unique and stick with it. In my case, it was YouTube. Whatever it is for you. It could also be YouTube. It could be a blog. It could be a web app that you build. Whatever it is, just figure that out and try to be unique as someone trying to get a junior dev role.
I am so glad you said that because I keep hearing, well, actually, I heard a hiring manager say that they're sick of looking at to-do apps or to-do lists sort of stuff. And yeah, you need a project that's going to make you stand out and not do the standard.
I mean, there's nothing unique about to-do app. If you're building something, if your portfolio consists of something that you can find a YouTube video on, it's not unique enough, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So the to-do apps, the calculators, all that sort of stuff, and these are the things you do on FreeCodeCamp, and they're great to get you those base level skills to, okay, let me see if I can actually build this and understand these concepts and how to apply them. You know, I have the tools, so I know how to use the tools. So take those tools that you've gotten from FreeCodeCamp or from videos or wherever they are and go and build something, and it'll go a long way other than a to-do app.
Did you find it easy to transfer those skills that you learned from FreeCodeCamp to doing a project that you just thought of in your head?
Yeah, and so what I always do what I did with FreeCodeCamp was I took the projects that were there, and when I was looking for work, all I kept on seeing was AngularJS, React, AngularJS, React. And I was like, well, FreeCodeCamp doesn't teach that, but let me see if I can watch a couple of videos on Angular, watch a couple of videos on React, and rebuild projects I've already figured out how to build. So at the end of the day, even if it's not unique, I'll still have built them in the relevant technologies, and maybe that will help me out. And by the time I was in the process of starting, I was like, okay, cool, let me figure out what unique app I want to build, because maybe my YouTube channel won't be enough, and I just want to get a job as soon as possible. But I ended up getting a job and never started any of those apps. So, for better or for worse, who knows?
Yeah, seriously. And now the apps that you make will be even better, you know? Like you're much more advanced now.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily even if you're a good developer or a bad developer. I think it all comes down to the idea. And I know somebody who wants to build a game. He's been a developer for 5 years, and he hasn't seemed to put it together. But the idea is essentially connecting movies to actors. And it's just a game where you can, within like 10 questions or 5 questions, you can narrow down based off of movie selections and trivia who the actor is they're talking about. And it's just something like that. It's not overly complex. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's never been done before. People have made games before, but that is something that is unique enough that you can put your own flair on that would make you stand out. And it's one thing I tell people to do to stand out is also do on your resume and on your LinkedIn, do a video like introduction of yourself. Talk about who you are, dress business, talk about who you are, what you're learning, what you're passionate about, because I really do think there's something about and then having a very lively sort of resume. I use Novo Resume to do that, to make my resume stand out a little bit more, because I do think there is something about putting sort of a face to the resume. And
like you're a real life breathing human being with a personality.
Yeah, and make it as hard as it can be to turn you down. Like that's essentially it. And I think the video sort of introductions make you, one, stand out because most people won't do that, and two, it kind of shows that, hey, this person's going the extra mile. That's really what you need to do.
Cool. So I'm going to check out your LinkedIn after this.
Mine isn't up. Also, I have all these great ideas, and I keep on. You'll see one. If you see one up soon, it's because I'm looking for a job. That's what it is.
Okay, so no urgency right now.
No. Hopefully not. I don't know. I'll come back to work tomorrow, and they'll be like, "Yo, hope you're getting that video resume together."
No. What were you saying about Novo?
About what?
Did you call it Novo? Something about your resume.
Oh, yes. Novo Resume. Novo Resume is a free resume template site. I highly encourage people to go and use it. So what they made me a kind of a cool custom one with that's built out of like HTML tags, and so a new feature that will come to their site. But essentially, it's a resume and cover letter template if you get their pro site, where you can easily transition your resume and organize it based off your skill set, based off your skill level, experience level. And it's one of the things that I recommend everyone to use because they see so many black and white resumes that aren't organized nicely or just don't have the relevant information. And that's one of the things that when I kind of do sort of mentoring advice with some people who book tutoring sessions is I will always go over their LinkedIn and their resume. Because to me, it's kind of the obvious stuff is like, okay, well, on here, you have that you worked at Papa John's, and that's fine. I've worked at Papa John's, but why don't you have like 10 projects on here instead in this space that you have? Or why aren't your skills front and center? Why aren't you showing off your strengths, and why aren't they organized nicely? And little things like that will go a long way. Like I learned a lot about what recruiters look for by filling out those 500 applications, because I got 10, 20, 30 calls. And I put version control on my resume. Just little things like this will get your resume to go right in the trash instead of Git and GitHub. And they were like, well, we didn't know you had Git or GitHub, so this makes you more of a qualified candidate. You should definitely put this on your resume. I was like, all right, because a lot of these recruiters aren't technical individuals. They're just people who are looking to fill roles. And if you have a nice, pretty resume that's organized and that they're going to hand to a developer, and the developer most of the time is going to go look at your portfolio projects. They're going to go look at these things and they say, okay, the recruiter sent you near. Where are your portfolio items? Can I see them? I don't want to see the code. I want to see them in action. Mm-hmm. And I think Novo Resume does a great job of organizing that and making it easy so that you can download it, print it off, and if you want to change it up, it's ready to go for you.
Nice. Yeah, great tip. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Gosh. Okay, well, thank you so much, Dylan. How can people contact you? Is Twitter or Facebook, like what's the best way to reach you?
Well, I have a Facebook group that's Code Tech and Caffeine. So basically the point of it is just to give people another resource of sharing what's going on. That's probably the best way. And then there's a Discord channel that's on there as well, so that people can again connect and share. And I think the reason for it is other than self-marketing and crap like that is that I think the easiest thing to do is to get off the path of coding. And so when you have people who are around you and kind of like, it's not up here, but normally I have like 3 or 4 programming posters in here, and it's just like, okay, it reminds me to code every day. And I kind of think you should apply that to Facebook and every other aspect of your life to kind of get your mind oriented. But besides that, youtube.com/codingtutorials360, but the Facebook group is probably the best way of actually getting in contact with me.
Okay, and I'll ask you to email that link to me so I can put it in the description, because I think that's awesome. And I know a lot of newbies get stuck on things and they don't have the network to ask someone else for advice or help. So that I love your idea of a Facebook group.
Yeah, it's growing pretty rapidly. I was surprised how quick. It's been around like about 3 months, and it's like 2,600 members, growing by a couple hundred a week. So it seems like something people are liking more and more. Awesome. I highly encourage you to start one as well. It's always great to do something like that, especially the sooner you start, the sooner it can grow.
I know. I keep thinking, like, I made a plan a few months ago to do one, And then I can't stick to a certain topic. Like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do one where we like work on projects, because there's a sketch Facebook group. Another YouTuber does Sketch Together on Facebook, and he does like project themes each month. So once I just decide what I want to focus on, is yours kind of like just ask questions, discussion, or is it project oriented?
Anything goes. It's that was kind of the name. I wanted to code, tech, and caffeine. I wanted to be pretty broad, and it was just essentially what comprises my life at the end of the day. And it's a combination of, hey, you could be a senior developer, or you could just be day one. Ask questions, share resources, share links. It could be memes. It really doesn't matter. The idea is to get you to code every day, and on the days that you are only coding 30 minutes, at least maybe you're learning more about the industry. Maybe you're learning about, oh, well, I've been studying jQuery for a year and a half, and that's not going to get me a job. All I'm seeing are AngularJS things shared, or Angular 2, React, just to kind of be in the same actual mental state as the developers that are actually working in the field. And you have to you have to be able to talk the lingo to kind of work with it at the end of the day. And so it's supposed to be a fun, get help / share fun programming info.
Oh, that's perfect. Well, thanks again. And I'm going to list everything below in the description box. And Dylan, I hope we talk again soon. This was fun.
Yeah, anytime.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Bye.